Well, Dr. Strain, thank you so much for taking a little time today to talk with me via this social distancing we are having to do right now. But tell me a little bit about what's going on right now at the Department of Agriculture and Forestry, given the situation as it is with COVID-19.
Well, we have our emergency operations center functioning, and we're making sure that all field personnel that are involved in the inspection and the facilitation and the production, transportation, delivery, and inspection of food and fiber and fuel, all of that stays intact. We're also working, with our state and federal partners because we're responsible to receive and distribute food commodities, right? That go, to schools, it goes to, again, food banks and all of that. So we're making sure basically that the trains stay on the tracks. And so, again, everything is about supply chain logistics. We're working with state, local, and federal officials to make sure that happens. We were on the phone with Secretary Perdue yesterday. He said if there's anything that disrupts or breaks the supply chain logistics, specifically with food, fiber, and energy, to contact him, and he will also help us to intervene. And so, I've had conversation with farmers today, and the question is, well, do I go ahead and plant? Am I going to be able to get fertilizer? Food supply logistics are at the top of the order: food, energy, fiber, and to make sure that everything stays intact, so that the trucks will be there on the road, be allowed, to deliver fertilizer, seed. The trucks that will be moving commodities, such as moving sugar, will remain in play. The trucks and the personnel necessary to feed the chickens, capture the chickens, process the chickens, move that poultry, and get that product into the grocery store. So whether it's poultry or it's milk or it's flour or it's bread, and again, we're asking everybody, continue to stand up and work because we cannot fail in food supply logistics. A lot of the grocery stores right now don't have bread and milk and other things, and that's simply because that there was a increase in purchasing and stockpiling by the homeowner, and we should catch up pretty soon, right? We should catch up pretty soon, but those supply chains remain intact. And someone said, well, can you release more milk? So no, fluid milk is fluid milk. That's how much fluid milk we have, and we will divert less from cheese, but the cows only produce so much milk, right? And so we're going to be moving all of the fluid milk into the fluid milk supply chain as quickly as we can, but it's a finite source, right? The cows have to be milked and the milk transported. There's only so much fluid milk that's available in the United States at any point in time. And I think we will catch back up because people that normally buy 1 gallon are buying 2 or 3, right? And so, again, those supply chain logistics will catch up.
You brought up that, farmers are still out there milking their cows. You brought up about planting. Through all of this, our farmers and ranchers, they're not taking a day off at all. I mean, they work from home already in a lot of cases, but I mean,
That's right.
they're
Well, and the other
already out of
thing,
contact with a lot of
they're
folks.
out probably most of our farmers are putting in extra hours if they can't get workers. Or, for instance, school has now been closed, and so a lot of people are having to stay home with their children, right? And so you could lose workers to that, whether it's either spouse, when one of the spouses may have to stay home with the kids, and so then less workers on the farm, and so we're working on that to make sure that we can have an adequate labor pool going out, into the farm and the associated industries, right? The entire complex that takes, it takes a complex of workers and industries to keep that farmer in the field. So you think about when that farmer's working, right? There's got to be mechanics for the tractors. There have to be delivery persons for fuel. They have to have a delivery supply chain for all of the inputs, the fertilizer, the seed, the chemicals. All of this is intact. The aerial applicators, the ground applicators, all of this has to stay in place so that that farmer can be on that tractor doing what they need to do. We're also working with the USDA and our federal partners to make sure we get an adequate supply of H2A and B workers in. And so, as you know, the embassies around the world, uh, many of them have been shut down. The embassy in Mexico was shut down about 3 days ago. And of course, those that did not have an interview, that's not going to happen. Anyone that had an interview, a returning guest worker, will be able to come in. And so it's critical now we get those H2 workers in, because last year in the United States we had about 275,000 total, just 275,000 total guest workers. And again, these are workers that do jobs Americans will not do or cannot do. And again, so we're getting those workers in. And so right now, I'm hearing crawfish is a real bargain. Uh, people, I'm telling everybody now, if you're home with your family, get a sack of crawfish. Now's the time. They're beautiful, right? And a great value right now. Boil them, eat them, and then peel the rest so you'll have, etouffee, and crawfish meat year round. So we're telling everybody crawfish right now is a bargain. So you need to get out there and get those crawfish.
And you brought up about getting the crawfish, but there are a lot of our farmers and ranchers who are selling directly to consumers right now. I know of
Mm-hmm.
one crawfish farmer in Point Capee Parish who's actually making deliveries into Baton Rouge. A couple of our folks who raise their own cattle and sell the meat, they're meeting the demand of people who are calling up. How important is it for our local folks, our local farmers and ranchers, to meet that local demand?
It's very important. And there was a discussion today. A lot of people are going to their local small town meat markets because the small town meat markets have ground meat and they have products that are not in the larger stores. And what's happening is that we have the supply chain intact. So the auctions are there. The farmers are going to bring the animals to the auction. They're being processed, and that product is going into those local markets. So check out your local markets.
We're going to keep doing that. And we appreciate the work that you're doing, Commissioner Strain. Anything else that you want to let our folks know?
Well, I think that we're in this for a while longer. We're in for the long haul. We still are seeing a growth in the total number of cases, and that's going to take some time. If you look at what's going on in China since about the 25th of February, their cases have leveled off. And so you're seeing a market decrease in the daily number of people getting sick and the number of people that are perishing from the disease. And so there's a timeline. And so we're expecting that we're going to be in a recessionary type of situation. You've watched the stock market, you've seen what oil's doing, but it's going to be a sharp and a very, very intense V. It's not going to have a long bottom. It's going to go down and come back up. And so we need to watch that very, very closely. Hopefully, oil will straighten out by the first week in April, and then we will start moving back. The fundamentals of our economy are good. We do expect vaccines. Vaccines are currently in trial, and hopefully that we will have vaccines available for mass public use in just a few months. Hopefully, we will have some vaccines available, really probably in 90 to 120 days. That's what we're hoping for, as well as some treatment protocols. So your big major pharmaceutical companies and the government, the federal government, are working together to develop appropriate treatments and vaccines. And so that's good. Modern technology using our very advanced, abilities to work and when you think about when we started studying the genome, when we mapped the genes and mapped the genes of people, mapped the genes of plants, mapped the genes of these viruses that we can take, and we use that technology for rapid development of vaccines. And so there's we thank God we live in a time when we can do that. But everyone needs to continue having social distance. Do not take it for granted. Don't do this properly for a week, then say, oh, we don't have to do this anymore. Let's all stay very safe. Okay?
And let's check on one another as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Strain. I appreciate your time.